From the unexplained to the mundane, come join us on a journey to the fringe. Hello and welcome to Journey to the Fringe, one of the few things you will consume today that does not contain microplastics.
Love that for us.
We are your podcast hosts who really don't have a physical form that you're going to be intaking, which is why we can tell you all about that, Taylor and Chelsea.
I'm really glad we finally passed that testing.
I know.
Finally got those results.
We actually had to make a few cutbacks on our end to get to that level. Let's not worry about the lead that actually came up on it.
Don't worry about it. Don't think about it. It's fine.
That's how environmental impact works. If you don't think about it, or if it's inconvenient for profit, it doesn't actually do anything bad.
Exactly. If that's one thing that we've learned this week.
We're here today doing one of those things that we probably should have done many, many years ago when we started this podcast, and that is
a lot.
Going over somebody who is fundamental, not necessarily in like anything we specifically talk about, but within the fringe community, and that is a man by the name of Uri Geller.
Uri Geller, who has come up on an episode or two already.
Yeah, he's come up on at least 2 episodes that I can think of off the top of my head, if not more.
We're finally doing it.
He sits in a weird fringe category that doesn't quite come up perfectly with anything we really talk about, other than specific topics and people. But he is very well known, not just in paranormal and fringe communities, but world renowned.
Yeah, I think
psychic.
He's been on a lot of like talk shows and stuff like that. He's probably a little bit more mainstream than people we usually talk about.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think, a 3-part look at him. First part's going to be looking at basically his start to where he starts to get famous. From there, we're going to go from where he is famous to what happens for the rest of his career. And then we're going to look at a few other things on the third part outside of those.
That's fun.
Just to keep it vague, because there's a lot of twists and turns we're going to have to go through.
Don't spoil it for me yet. I'm just excited to hear how he gets famous.
Okay, and I'm just curious, when you hear the name Uri Geller, or Uri Geller, what comes to mind for you?
His spoons bending, watches stopping working, first and foremost, and men who stare at goats, right?
Yeah, Project Stargate, right? Or Stargate Project. There's a lot of things I learned that surprised me. I'm gonna really enjoy seeing where he falls in the asshole ranking at the end of the year. Who knows? Maybe he's a nice guy. And
I feel like you know.
We just owe him an apology for saying things like that. I know, but you guys don't at this point.
I'm soon to know.
There's a bunch of places I had to take from for this episode. Uri Geller has a website. I took some information from there. Wikipedia is always a great source.
Yeah, it is.
And there's just a ton of stuff written about him in the Times of Israel, Jerusalem Post, and many just different news articles where I pulled from. But for the most part, a lot of the stuff's going to come from him himself or Wikipedia.
If I've learned everything, it's always he himself is a good source.
Yes. Uri self.
Yep.
Uri Geller was born in Israel on December 20th, 1946. His parents were Hungarian and Austrian descent. This part comes directly from his website. He claims he's a distantly related relative to Sigmund Freud on his mother's side.
Okay.
So sometimes he'll call himself Uri Geller Freud or Uri Freud Geller.
But like not actually proven.
He might be. I didn't look that far into it just because I don't understand. He's a psychic. Why does it matter if you're related to Sigmund Freud?
It's true, a psychologist.
So I just didn't find it that important to get to the lowest of it. And also, once we get going, you're going to realize there are too many stories to look into to stop at every single one.
Well, okay. I like
this next sentence. At the age of 4, he had a mysterious encounter with a sphere of light while in a garden near his house. A retired Israeli Air Force officer who was an eyewitness to this encounter validated this mystifying event decades later.
No.
That's it. That's all he says. There is way more about that out there.
The guy just says it happened.
Yeah, he's like, oh yeah, I remember seeing this little kid see it. And this was like 30 years after the event.
That's fucking weird. Okay.
He seems to try to place that as like where his powers came from, but like he's got like 5 different stories of where his powers came from. That's the one in his bio, though, so that's the one he's sticking to for now.
I do seem to remember this aspect of Uri Geller from wherever I heard about him before.
He first became aware of his unusual powers when he was about 5. One day, during a meal, his spoon curled up in his hand and broke, although he had applied no physical pressure to it. His parents were somewhat shocked, and Uri did not mention the incident to anyone else at the time. He developed these powers in school by demonstrating them to pupils, which directly contradicts that last sentence, but anyhow, his mother thought he inherited this from Sigmund Freud.
You ever hear that about Sigmund Freud?
Yeah, how these spoons just curled up.
Yeah, it's like the number one
and
thing
sometimes
people
a cigar
know
is
about
just a bending spoon that you cannot control in any way.
If there's one thing that I learned in college, it was that.
When he was 11, he went to live in Cyprus, where he remained until he was 17. And this is outside of both Wikipedia and his own bio. He claims that this house also doubled as a safe house for Mossad, so he got like spy connections during this time.
Okay.
Whether or not we can verify that, like I said, all these stories, there's just so many of them that you can't look into every single one of them.
Did you check with Mossad?
I put an email out and now we're on a list.
Okay.
That's all they said.
Hopefully we'll get an email.
No, that's what they said. They responded, we're on a list.
Okay, good. We've got one email now.
He then returned to Israel, served as a paratrooper in the Israeli army, and fought in the Six-Day War of 1967, during which he was wounded in action. From 1968 to 69, Uri worked as a model, being photographed for many different ad campaigns. And in 1969, he began to demonstrate his powers of telepathy and psychokinesis to small audiences. By the end of 1971, he was a household name throughout Israel, thanks to his numerous stage appearances. He was given a huge boost by then Prime Minister Golda Meir, who, when asked on a national radio program what she predicted for the future of Israel, she replied, "Don't ask me, ask Uri Geller." His performance included his trademark spoon bending, describing hidden drawings and making watches stop or run faster. Geller said he performed these feats through willpower and the strength of his mind alone. His apparent ability to bend metal objects during his television appearances came to be known as the Geller effect and made him a celebrity. That's where he starts to get big in Israel. And for a second here, we have to adjust what we're looking at with this story away from Uri Geller and towards a man by the name of Andrea Purich. It's a hard name to say, but he's an American medical doctor. He lives 1918 to 1995. He's an inventor, doctor, researcher, and he's really big into the UFO paranormal psychic community. Okay. He made a ton of money off of basically creating hearing aid technology. So he devoted his life to studying psychic phenomenon, and he identified gifted individuals, which included people who I haven't looked into at this point, but probably are future episodes: Eileen Garrett, Peter Hurkos, and the Brazilian psychic surgeon Arrigo, as well as looking into UFOs and extraterrestrials, psychedelic mushrooms, and altered states. In 1971, he stumbled across Uri Geller. So Puharich heard from inventor Itzhak Bentov that a young Israeli performer was doing things that didn't look like stage magic. Puharich was intrigued, and he flew to Israel to meet Uri Geller, and he became instantly convinced that Geller's abilities were real and possibly extraterrestrial in origin, which is also why he upplays that orb story from when he was 4.
Okay.
In Puharich's book, Uri, 1974, he describes his belief that Geller was in contact with a non-human intelligence called Spectra. And this framing is what permanently welds Geller to UFO lore, but also keeps him separate. Puharich arranges Geller to basically move to the US in 1973, and he puts him in touch with the Stanford Research Institute, SRI, and Edgar Mitchell of Apollo 14 and previous asshole lore. Through Puharich, he secures experiments at the Stanford Research Institute with physicists Hal Puthoff and Russell Targ on Uri Geller. And this positions Geller as a subject of interest for US intelligence agencies. And basically, this guy sets him up for everything that we remember him for. This is basically putting him at the forefront where he's going to go on his media campaign, as well as be researched by actual scientists who think that ESP is a real thing.
Like the men who stare at goats thing, right?
Exactly.
Which we did a full episode.
And that's why, Chelsea, you think it's interlocked, these two, Uri Geller and Men Who Stare at Goats, or Stargate, correct?
Interlocked as in Carson.
They're inseparable. Like, he is a key fundamental part of Project Stargate.
He's in it.
I think that's good enough. Anyhow, the first thing he does when he gets to the US, he does some like off the books experiments and talking to the scientists at SRI. But the first thing he gets booked on is Johnny Carson.
Right, yeah.
And he goes and does the Johnny Carson show. And I'm going to share my screen with you, Chelsea, so you can see what happens here.
Okay, this is before Project Stargate or whatever.
This is before Project Stargate. This is even before any scientific papers are written about him, which is going to happen at a certain point. It's just that hasn't happened yet. And we're going to watch this. I'm going to describe it once you watch it so that everybody can kind of know what's going on here.
I prefer that they don't.
Basically, what happens here is he thought he was on here for an interview, is what he says. But Johnny Carson has a table set up of all these different experiments that he says he's able to perform. One is that they have 10 vials of water that are in metals so that you can't tell which one has water in it. Only one does, and he's able to identify it. They have stopwatches there so he can stop time. They have spoons that he can bend. They have envelopes of things that have people on the cast have drawn so he can guess what they are. And they just said, like, pick whatever you want.
Is that spoons there in the middle? Keys?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he takes a shot at guessing which one of these has water in it. So he does this for a while, and then he's like, no, I can't do it. Just not feeling it today, Johnny. Just not feeling it. And then he's like, okay, I'll move on to the spoon. Fair enough. Also, I love, just like offhandedly, Johnny Carson smoking like nonstop this whole episode too.
Look at the carpet too.
Yeah. So he makes somebody else hold a spoon, and then he starts rubbing the spoon. And then he's like, oh, look at that. It's bent. I bent it.
I was expecting Johnny Carson to light another cigarette with that cigarette he just put out.
Yeah. It's amazing what you were allowed to get away with.
He doesn't want to do anything.
That's more or less the show, Chelsea. They gave him a bunch of experiments where he wasn't able to bring anything, they just provided it, and it goes completely flat. And he's like, no, you don't believe in me, so I can't do it. You can't make me do it on the spot because I only got 20 minutes.
Plus, I didn't bring these spoons, so this is just not feeling right.
How do I know you didn't rig them so they can't? These are unbending
These
spoons.
are unbendable spoons, of course.
So to give people an idea of what we just saw, on August 1st, 1973, Geller appears on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. James Randi says that Johnny had been a magician himself and was skeptical. We're going to learn about James Randi in the second part of this 3-part series. He was skeptical of Geller's claimed paranormal power, so before the date of taping, Randi was asked to help prevent any trickery. Accordingly, the show's staff prepared its own props without informing Geller and did not let Geller or his staff anywhere near the props. When Geller joins Carson on stage, he appears surprised that he was not going to be interviewed, but instead was expected to display his abilities using the provided articles. Geller at point says, and you heard this scares me. And as you know, I told your people what to bring, and I'm surprised because before this program, your producers came and he read me at least 40 questions you were going to ask me. Geller was unable to display any paranormal abilities, saying, I don't feel strong, and expresses his displeasure at feeling he was being pressed to perform by Carson. And according to Adam Higginbottom, the result was a legendary immolation, which Geller offered up flustered excuses to his host as his abilities failed him again and again. Quote, I sat there for 22 minutes humiliated, end quote, Geller told me. When I spoke to him in September, quote, I went back to my hotel devastated. I was about to pack up the next day and go back to Tel Aviv. I thought, that's it. I'm destroyed, end quote. This appearance on The Tonight Show with Carson and Randi had orchestrated to debunk Geller's claimed abilities backfired, according to Higginbottom. To Geller's astonishment, he was immediately booked on the Merv Griffin Show, and he was on his way to becoming a paranormal superstar.
That's
quote,
crazy.
The Johnny Carson Show made Uri Geller, end quote, Geller said. To an enthusiastically trusting public, his failure only made his gifts seem more real. If he were performing magic tricks, they would surely work every time. So, just failed up with it.
Interesting.
And then, of course, after that is the famed Stanford Research Institute experiments on Uri Geller. I do apologize interchangeably, Uri Geller or Uri Geller. He will always say Uri Geller, but he always says Western people call him Uri Geller, and that's just what they do. So I'm going to fall back to that sometimes too by accident because it feels more natural, but his name is technically properly said Uri Geller. So Hal Puthoff and Russell Targ do this experiment on him, and here it is. SRI performs an 8-day experiment on him in August of 1973 between August 4th and 11th. This was designed to test Uri Geller's paranormal perception using picture drawing tasks under controlled conditions. Geller was usually placed in a locked, acoustically and electrically shielded room, while target drawings were created elsewhere, sometimes in another building, sometimes on the East Coast, sometimes on a computer screen. The authors, Puthoff and Targ, present the series as evidence that Geller demonstrated his paranormal perceptual ability in a convincing and unambiguous manner, noting early on throughout the experiments, as a result of Geller's success in this experimental period, we consider that he has demonstrated his paranormal perceptual ability in a convincing and unambiguous manner. And Uri Geller and people who like him a lot are always going to lean back on this as that he has actual psychic powers. But let's actually look at the experiment.
Okay, that was going to be my next question.
Day 1, August 4th, Saturday. Geller is locked in a shielded room. Targets are chosen by randomly opening a dictionary and drawing the first drawable word. Target 1 found fuse, drawn as a firecracker. Geller says he sees a cylinder with noise coming out of it and draws a drum and cylindrical shape. Target 2 finds bunch, draws a bunch of grapes. Geller reports drops of water and purple circles, and then draws a bunch of grapes. Both Target and Geller's drawings have 24 grapes. The authors emphasize that they found no sensory leakage in the shielded room protocol. Quote, "In our detailed examination of the shielded room and the protocol used in these experiments, no sensory leakage has been found, nor has any defect in the protocol been brought to our attention." Day 2, August 5th, Sunday. Geller is again in the shielded room, target drawn in an office half a mile away. Target 1, outline of a man that evolves into a devil with a trident. Geller produces several drawings, Moses tablets, an apple with a worm and snakes, and a composite of the 10 Commandments, God, and a trident. He does draw the trident, but not the figure. Target 2, a simplified solar system, no orbit lines. Geller's immediate reaction is space. His drawing resembles the targets and also omits orbit lines. Author notes, with regards to the pictures, Geller did draw the trident from the target picture, but he did not draw the man who was holding it. From this, it seems clear that Geller does not simply copy lines from the target picture, but rather he does perform some mental processing on them before drawing them himself. August 6th, Monday, a picture is drawn by a scientist outside the usual group and locked in the shielded room before Geller arrives. Geller is then led to the room and asked to reproduce the picture from inside. He draws several images, rejects them all, and says he gets no clear impression. Target draws a rabbit. Port states, he drew a number of pictures, all of which he rejected as not being applicable. He said that he got no clear impression and passed. The target was a rabbit, and nothing Geller drew in any way resembled a rabbit. Crucially, the author adds that the picture was drawn by a scientist Geller is not fond of, and that Geller guessed this at the outset and later felt vindicated when he learned he was right.
I love that detail.
August 7th. Tuesday. 2 target pictures attempted while Geller is in the shielded room and hooked up to EEG. Targets. They drew a tree in an envelope. Geller experiences difficulty, produced no matching drawings, and passed again. Report notes, quote, he experienced difficulty, did not make a drawing that corresponded to either drawing, and then passed. End quote. And then key lines again, quote, the same skeptical experimenter who drew the rabbit was the EEG operator on the second unsuccessful day. End quote. Wednesday, August 8th, 3 targets this time. Geller feels unsure and passes on the first drawing. He says it might be a horse, but the target drew a camel. Geller draws for the second target a curved line with squares underneath. This says he doesn't know what it is and passes. It was the Golden Gate Bridge. And Geller quickly says he sees a flying swan for the third target over a hill, draws a bird, and is confident the target is flying as a flying seagull. His drawing is judged correct. Then comes the important part here. Quote, in these experiments conducted with this shielded room, 6 days' work was done. Good results were attained on the 4 days where there was no openly skeptical observers, except the experimenter whom Geller had learned to accept. End quote. So, of the first 6 days, there's what they deem 4 good days, unless, of course, somebody who's skeptical in any way of Uri Geller's present, in which case they fail completely. They continue from there. August 9th, Thursday, experiment moves to a different shielded room near the computer facilities. Target is drawn on a computer graphics screen. It's a kite. Geller in the shielded room asks via intermediaries whether the target is geometric or an object. He first draws a square with a diagonal, and then some triangular airplanes, and then passes. And the author considers his first drawing a good representation of the target. Friday, August 10th, again, 2 computers stored targets. First one's a church. Picture drawn and stored in computer memory. No visible trace remains. Geller's attempts share some elements in common, but he doesn't identify it as a church and passes. Second one is an arrow through the heart. Target is stored with the TV intensity off, so it's invisible in the lit room, which I don't quite understand what that means. Geller immediately draws an arrow under a rounded brick and then an arrow inside a suitcase. And the officer says, quote, "We consider the arrow in the suitcase similar to the target, which was an arrow through a heart," end quote. And I think we can skip just to the conclusion of the report here, Chelsea.
Yeah. I'm very curious about it.
As a result of Geller's success in the experimental period, we consider that he has demonstrated his paranormal perceptual ability in a convincing and unambiguous manner. They framed the week as a success overall and emphasized the hits and treated the failures as either unsuitable targets, emotional issues, or experimental complications. And they're very critical. They even say at this point, good results were obtained on the days where there was only no openly skeptical observers present. Every day that they have bad things happen, there's like, yep, skeptical person's there, so it's just that's not good.
I feel like that's not the answer, though. So is there more to what's going on here? Or
that's what Stanford
story?
Research Institute's conclusion is that he has psychic powers unless somebody who's skeptical is anywhere near him.
I don't know. I'm just so skeptical of Uri Geller.
Oh, don't worry. We're going to learn more about what happens from here.
The odds of getting something, I'm just wondering what the odds are of rightfully guessing something. Like if I was in a room for 8 days.
Not only that, Chelsea, from me describing those days, did it not seem like he was having open conversations with the scientists who believed him?
Now that you say that.
If you're somebody who's able to glean information easily from conversation with people who especially believe you have powers, it would be very easy.
That's true, as if you're a grifter for a career.
And they even said at one point, he asked whether or not it was geometrical or objects. For the kite, and then started drawing a kite, and then it's like, nope, that's not it.
Okay, so I don't know why I just glossed over that while I was listening to that, because I'm thinking there has to be something logical to what the hell's going on here.
And don't worry, Chelsea, we'll get to that next episode. But the SRI study is so fundamental that in the project Stargate, which started in 1970, the United States intelligence sources believed that the Soviet Union was spending 60 million rubles annually on psychotronic research. And in response to claims that the Soviet program had produced results, the CIA initiated funding for a new program known as Scanate, Scan by Coordinate, in the same year. Remote viewing research began in 1972 at SRI in Menlo Park, California, and proponents, which included Russell Targ and Hal Puthoff of the research, said that a minimum accuracy of 65% required by the clients was often exceeded in the later experiments. Targ and Puthoff began testing for psychics for SRI in 1972, and this included this experiment on Uri Geller. This apparently successful result garnered interest from the U.S. Department of Defense. And because it was so interesting to the Department of Defense, they brought in a guy by the name of Ray Hyman, professor of psychology at the University of Oregon. They said, hey, can you look at this to make sure everything's above board? He was specifically asked to evaluate Uri Geller. And that's where I'm going to end this episode. Somehow he seems to be failing up with sheer coincidence, and I don't know, skeptics be damned, because the skeptics are the thing that stop him.
This is like, I don't even know. Okay, first of all, what a cliffhanger to leave this on. And second of all, I wish I had this talent. What a talent to have.
Yeah, the talent to bullshit people? Sorry, to bend spoons. Well,
I will say, I don't know if this is the place to put it, but I'm going to say it before I forget it. When he's been on Coast to Coast AM, people have reported watches stopping while he's talking on the radio in various places where they're just listening to him on the radio, or old watches start going. And so George would always get, or Art, George, one of them.
That's actually a great comment to make, because I do think it's going to come up in the next episode. Something along those lines. So I want you to keep it in mind as we're going forward.
I'm going to try. I literally just said I have to say it now before I forget it.
Because, yeah, I think there's almost something directly quotable that happens in the next episode that's very similar to that.
Okay. I just remembered it.
But for now,
episode. Yeah.
I have been Taylor, here with Chelsea. We are Journey to the Fringe. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Journey to the Fringe. If you have liked what you have listened to, please like, share, subscribe, or follow, depending on what venue you are listening to us through. Also, please, if possible, leave a 5-star review, as that really helps us in the algorithms. Should you wish to interact with us, please check us out on your social media of choice. I bet you we are there. And if you really want to communicate with us and give us ideas for new episodes, or tell us that we're wrong and terrible, either way, please send us an email at journeytothefringe@gmail.com. For now, I'll see you in the next episode.